What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SO Show. Now today we about to talk about JB Bickerstaff getting fired by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Man, just today the Cleveland Cavaliers just announced that they released, they fired JB Bickerstaff, who's been the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers for the past 5 seasons now. JB finished. He finished with a 48-34 record. Well, him and the Cavs finished 48-34 this season. Finished fourth place in the Eastern Conference. Made it all the way to the semifinals and got knocked out by the Boston Celtics, who are now in the conference finals. So my whole take. I don't know. It's weird because JB, he wasn't a bad coach. He wasn't a bad coach at all. He just wasn't. He wasn't a bad coach. And honestly, when he first came in 2019, he was an assistant coach to John Bellini. Now, John Bellini, it did not work out with John Bellini at all with the Cavs. And JB was appointed interim coach for that 2019 for the end of that 2019 season, and he officially became the head coach in the start of 2020. The 2020 season. Now, since JB came into the league as a head coach for the Cavs, I mean, he was dealing with a whole bunch of young guys. You had a young Colin Sexton. You had a young Darius Garland. You had a young Jared Allen coming from the Nets. It's just, he'd been around these guys for so long, and he basically watched these guys grew up. And the thing, they're still young. Darius Garland is only 24. Darius Garland is still young in his career. So it's like, I can't really fault JB because he was in rebuild mode year. Like we haven't made the playoffs since, LeBron. We haven't made the playoff. I'm sorry. let me stop being biased. I'm not gonna say we. I'm gonna say the Cleveland Cavaliers haven't made the playoffs since LeBron. And during this time, of course. During this time, the Cavs haven't made the postseason since he left. They were in rebuild mode from 2018 to 2021, straight rebuild mode. So it was like JB was he was trying to coach up a whole bunch of young guys who was still trying to adjust themselves to the league, let alone he trying to coach them, So you got to put that in mind. You got to put that in perspective too. Now, so yeah, he came in 2020. So 2020, his first 2 seasons obviously were terrible because again, rebuild mode. These guys are trying to adjust their game to the NBA, and he's trying to coach these guys up as best as he can. Now, 2021 is where things really got interesting, and they got heated up. I'm sorry, 2022 is where things started to heat it up, and that was because of Donovan Mitchell came in. They needed that veteran. They needed that one veteran piece, that main superstar type of guy, and that's what Donovan was. He came into the picture immediately. Once he came into the picture, the Cavs were, a successful team. Like they became a success. They had an identity now. They had some type of culture, because of what Donovan had brought from Utah. He had experience in Utah, back in Utah, playoff experience. So he came into the Cavs with a veteran, kind of, bravado. JB Bickerstaff and Donovan Mitchell, they took the Cavs to their first, playoff appearance since, 2017. Since 2017, I think. So, yeah, I mean, they got bounced out by the Knicks. Okay, cool. But again, you had Donovan Mitchell coming into the season, in the middle of the season, so it's like, do you count that? Do you not count that for JB? Is that JB fault? I mean, I don't know if you can really fault him for that. But now this season now, this is like, put up or shut up time. Like this is like now, like, okay, everybody know each other now. We brought a couple pieces in, we added in George Niang, we signed Max Strus in the offseason. We brought these different type of guys that can somehow, somewhat, in some way, give us more experience and more veteran, playoff experience guys too. Because if you really think about it, the Cleveland Cavaliers still, even though they brought these guys, Max Strus, George Niang, They brought these type of players onto their team for this season because they needed that playoff experience. But honestly, again, you still have a young team who doesn't really have any playoff success. Donovan Mitchell always struggled, and he made it to the playoffs every season with the Utah Jazz, but he was always bounced out first round. So you have him with playoff experience. Max Strus, he had experience with the Miami Heat, and they thought that him being in Miami, he was going to bring that culture, and that him and Jordan Niang came from the Sixers, and Max Strus came from the Heat, so they thought that these guys would help them in the playoffs when playoff time come, but it didn't translate to that. And those guys that they brought in for this season ended up going missing. The guys who had the most playoff experience ended up going missing this past postseason. So with JB getting fired and everything, it's hard because it's like you can only coach so much. Now there were plenty of times where JB was questioned, and everybody, the media had every right to kind of attack JB because always complaining to the refs. He was always down to his last time out in critical possessions of the game. And sometimes he wouldn't even have any timeouts left. And during critical, 30 seconds left on the clock, and they're down by one. They have no timeouts. So it was plenty of those game situationals. I mean, there were plenty of game situations where JB, his coaching was a little questionable, But for the most part, I mean, again, JB, he lost his supers. He was losing Darius Garland, through that mid-season. He lost Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. And once they came back, Donovan Mitchell ended up getting hurt after the All-Star break. So it was so up and down. And mind you, when when Darius Garland and Evan Mobley were out, they were on a streak. That month of December, they were 17-3 for the month of December. So I mean, JB was doing the best that he could, of what he had, And mind you, this was the Cavs they finished top 8 in most 3-point shoot. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. The Cavs finished top 8 in most 3-point shots taken and made 3-pointers. They finished top 8 shooting on a 36% clip. Now, they heavily relied on 3-point shooting. That was the big emphasis for the Cavs, and that was the main, focal point they was doing throughout the whole regular season. Put as many threes up as you can. And honestly, you have to do that, for like considering JB perspective, all smaller point guards and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, they're 6'1". So it's like Donovan Mitchell can get away with it because he's a little bigger body, he's more explosive, vertical is crazy, he can do those type of things. He can get away with it. But Darius Garland, I mean, it's pretty much, he has to shoot. And Darius Garland is somewhat like a liability, on defense. So like on offense, that was pretty much their whole identity. The Cavs' identity was put up as many 3-pointers as you can and let's win the game. That was their that was the motto. But now this is where it gets interesting because now that JB left, a lot of local radio stations were saying if JB leaves, if JB gets fired, Donovan is staying. If JB stays, Donovan is leaving. And it was a whole lot of rumors going on. So we still don't know what Donovan Mitchell is going to do. At the end of the day, it's all in his hands. He's literally, the Cavs' main focal point is trying to understand and trying to know what Donovan Mitchell plans on doing. Because it's all up to him. The cards are literally in Donovan Mitchell's hands, honestly. So we will see how this all unfold. And yeah, I mean, JB Bickerstaff, he did a good job. He did a decent job. And it's just the Cleveland Cavaliers were just looking for something. I feel like the Cavs were just looking for something new, something fresh, some other veteran type of head coach who can get them to that next level. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they just they felt like they were pretty much complacent of where JB was. And yeah, I mean, wish all the best to him. And that's it for me. Tell me, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let me know what y'all think about this situation. What Donovan plans on doing, and yeah, that's it. I'm gonna see y'all next video, and thank y'all for watching.